The midnight hour is upon us. It's time once again for two internet strangers to discuss the good and evil of the horror genre. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the terror within the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast.
Listen, I know she meant a lot to you, but she's gone, Corey. Don't do this. Death shouldn't be played with. Something really bad could happen.
You didn't know her like I did, Maddy. She was everything to me. My best friend, my roommate, my sole reason for living.
She was a goldfish.
How about we just start the podcast while I dig?
Hi, I'm Maddy.
And I'm Corey.
And this is
Hallow-Holics Anonymous. A show dedicated to all things horror and occasionally Halloween.
So, Corey, I heard you just watched Pet Sematary.
Yeah, I did. And I sort of thought it wasn't terrible until I rewatched the original, and now I think it's terrible.
That's funny, because, after you came back from seeing the movie, you immediately told me it was terrible.
Did I really? I must have been mad. Well, no, I didn't like it. I don't want to get too much into it yet until we actually talk about it. Okay, maybe I'm phrasing it wrong. I thought it was terrible when I saw it, and then when I saw the original again, I thought it was even terribler.
Or worse. That's also a word you could have used.
I like terribler. Don't you judge me in my zany use of the English language.
So this probably won't be as long as our typical episode because we've mixed up the format a little and we both decided to focus on both movies equally together.
Equally-ish.
Yeah, I mean, chances are I probably did more research and took more notes and paid more attention to the source material, but you probably got some good jokes in there.
Hopefully. That's what I'm here for. Oh, you're looking up the thing.
How dare you assume I have to look anything up?
Yeah, I'm terrible. I forgot.
Now go on.
Go on to what? Waiting for the trailer. Isn't that what you were doing?
No.
On this day in horror history.
Jessica Alba was born, as well as Penelope Cruz, she was in Gothica, so that kind of counts as horror. Then you've got, Steve Bloom, who did, voice work for Wolverine, which isn't really horror at all. But also Lionel Barrymore, who is in Mark of the Vampire and Devil Dolls.
That's a rough day for horror history.
Let's see. April 28th is known for... Okay. Rory Calhoun, who appeared in Hell Comes to Frogtown, Night of the Lepus, and Motel Hell, died in 1999 at the age.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Dobbs Greer also died, but that made me sadder.
I gotcha. All right, we're going to take this Cujo out back and... that was on this day in horror history.
We are on our game tonight.
Hey, it's a mini-sode. We can get away with this.
So there's one more thing to do before we launch into our film discussion.
Design making things worse.
Okay, so I was making a pun there and you read the outline completely wrong. Let me try to say it in a way that's actually what I wrote there. Designers make it worse. See what I did there?
Kind of. Yeah. I forgot the first part of what you said because I think my brain just broke for a minute.
Let me repeat it. Designers make it worse. Like that.
Now, do you want me to respond to that?
Well, no, the idea is that we're going to take a movie like a classic or something good and figure out a way to make a remake and make it worse.
Oh, no, I remembered that part. I thought you were doing that thing where you fish for a reaction and I don't get it.
Oh, no, I was doing I
thought I was failing you.
I was kind of doing a Project Runway reference there.
Oh, well, yeah.
My mom will get it.
I would not get that. And see, your mom gets it and I don't get it. And that's why I don't get it.
Okay, so the idea of this game, we're not going to go launch into a whole, intense discussion on making one remake. We're just going to rapid fire this. I give you a movie, you figure out one or two elements to make it worse in a remake, right? I'd say probably simply here, let's just give each other three options, all right?
Let me get a visual.
A good example would be like, I give him Rosemary's Baby and he says, oh, we'll gender swap everyone. So that instead of Rosemary, it's, I don't know, Rosemary's giving birth to the devil's baby.
That would have been my favorite. I believe I am ready.
Do you want to start?
Paranormal Activity.
Oh, okay. Make it like completely not found footage, even remotely.
Oh, I was hoping you'd go with that. That's exactly why I used that one, because of the Blair Witch Book of Shadows. So I really like it. That's exactly what I did, or what they did, and it didn't work at all. I just accidentally took credit for Blair Witch Book of Shadows.
All right. Frankenhooker.
Turn it into a children's Saturday morning cartoon. A la Toxic Crusaders.
Another thing I would kind of watch.
I would, too, but...
It worked for Killer Tomatoes.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing my Frankenhooker t-shirt right now. God, that's right. Killer Tomatoes was a cartoon.
Yeah, and it was a great one.
I'm gonna have to watch some of that. Oh, right, it's my turn. Ooh, The Shining.
Oh, The Shining. All right. The kid's not even remotely psychic.
So it's a movie about a guy who kills his family on a mountain.
Yeah, pretty much. Doesn't see the twin ghost sisters, doesn't see any of that. No, like...
That's great. But by changing one single aspect of that film, you turned it into a Lifetime original. It's now called Please Don't Take My Son.
Ghost Ship.
Oh, that one's kind of hard. Ghost Ship. Put it on a spaceship instead, which completely negates the only good scene in that entire film, the first few minutes of it, where everybody gets killed by that cable.
So now it's like every sci-fi plot on the planet, because it's always about one ship discovering an abandoned ship.
Right, it's now about space pirates salvaging a ship full of... It's now an Aliens sequel.
It's better than just making the ship itself a literal ghost ship.
Everybody who tries to salvage it just falls through.
The ship is the ghost. The ship has been the ghost the whole time.
This is my last one, right?
Yes.
All right.
Though I am having a lot of fun with this, actually.
I am too. I could do a whole episode of this. Evil Dead.
Ooh, okay. Oh, instead of Ash surviving, it's his asshole friend.
Oh, God. The guy... Oh. You just destroyed one of the best franchises in horror history.
Yes!
Good work.
You know those trees violated him after you saw him try to come back and his clothes were torn up.
Oh, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the rapiest trees in all of the forest. That came out a little too fairy tale.
I just pictured someone going to a club and, like, trees like, hey, you want a drink? And they pushing it over to him.
Just quietly sprinkling dust into it.
Okay, I got one. Child's Play.
Andy's crazy. It really is just a doll.
So it's magic now.
What?
It's magic.
No, it's just Andy killing
No, it's
people.
the movie Magic.
Oh.
That was a Sam Neill movie, right?
I don't remember.
Oh, it's so bad.
I don't think I even finished it. That's not the one with the sauna and the gate to hell, is it? No.
No, it's the one where he has the ventriloquist dummy. See, you can't even remember it. It's that.
Yeah. Maybe it's not even what I thought it was.
It's always dumb when it turns out to just be, like, they're crazy. I hate that twist.
I agree. That's almost as bad as it was all in your head or it was all a dream.
The only time it ever worked for me is when they really leaned into it in Maniac.
Maniac doesn't all happen in his head, though. That whole end scene actually happens to him, right? Isn't that how he dies?
I'm pretty sure that's all in his head.
Huh. I'm going to have to go. It's been a minute since I've seen Maniac.
Because he gets back up, remember?
No, I don't.
He's like, bah, to the camera, and then the credits roll. Well, he doesn't make that noise, but I like to think he did.
He should have. You're right.
So that was Designers Make It Worse, a game we might have to play again in the near future. Yeah,
this needs to be in the permanent stable, I think.
In the lexicon.
Ooh, Saw could be an educational engineering film for kids.
No, we're done.
Oh.
Now that we've finished the game, it's time to move on to the films. To break this up a little, I think I'll start the original trailer, we'll talk a bit, and then I'll play the second trailer. How does that sound?
That makes sense.
I miss the good old days when it was just children going la 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 la.
Yeah, I was just thinking that same thing. I was thinking I should write a song with a child's choir.
I have no reason.
I dreamed he got hit by a car and you and Mr. Crandall buried him in the Pet Sematary.
What did we do tonight, Judd?
What we did, Lois, was a secret.
Already, this is kind of better than most trailers we've watched.
Has anyone ever been a person up there?
May the Lord make his face to shine upon you.
There was something hilarious about Stephen King as a priest.
I think it was the accent he was doing.
Really bad.
You're thinking of putting him up there. Don't deny the thought hadn't crossed your mind.
Come back to me, Gage. Come back to us.
Now I'm gonna go to bed.
Paramount Pictures presents Stephen King's all-time best-selling tale of horror, Pet Sematary.
That was probably one of the most simple and just perfect trailers we have watched on this podcast.
Yeah, it was really good. It didn't really give away anything, but it, everybody got their moment to be like, hey, everything's terrible.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't tell the story. It didn't hit plot point A, B, C, D. It just, it gave you a little taste of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And not even all the amazing parts. You didn't see any of the really awesome parts in it either, so you'd be surprised if you hadn't already seen it a million times.
In fact, was there even a truck in that trailer?
No, not at all.
No.
And that truck was all over the movie.
Well, that's one of the things. I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here or not, but that's one of the things that this movie did so effectively that the sequel completely blew. Yeah,
not the sequel, the remake.
Oh, the remake. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm going to do that a lot. The trucks in what was it? Onico, I think was the company. The Onico trucks in the first one are characters all by themselves.
They build the dread and the tension throughout the first half of the movie.
And they're used to accentuate certain parts too, and you're constantly reminded they're there. They're this sort of foreboding entity all throughout the movie. This road and these trucks are gonna cause something horrible.
Now, in the remake, you saw a truck maybe once before the big truck, and then he crashed because he was texting.
Yeah, I think you saw it in the beginning and that was it.
Yeah.
And it crashed because he was texting. That's crap. You crash your truck because you're listening to Sheena is a Punk Rocker super loud on your stereo. You crash because you're listening to the Ramones, damn it.
Yeah, which, by the way, best title song ever.
We'll get to that again when I complain about it in the remake. But apparently Stephen King's a huge Ramones fan, which, who's not a huge Ramones fan? I practically just bought a guitar so I could play Ramones songs.
I don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery.
Did you think I was going to join in?
I was hoping you would.
I don't want to live my life again.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, apparently Stephen King's a huge Pet Sematary. Jesus Christ.
Wow, what a narcissist.
Yeah. No, he's a huge Ramones fan. And the Ramones, I guess, caught wind of that fact. And I think they're mentioned. I don't remember if they're mentioned in the book or not. I think I have that in front of me.
I had only gotten through, to refresh my memory on the book, I'd only gotten through the first 4 chapters. Which is, the structure of this book is really interesting. Because in the intro, it gives you, 3 or 4 sections with titles for the index, and then all of the chapters are these condensed little sections with 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth throughout the book, but they don't actually have chapter title pages in the index. It's an interesting structure. Makes for a quick read, but if you're looking for a specific part, good luck.
So yeah, I don't think the Ramones are actually mentioned in the book. I think I just made that up, but they did catch wind of how much Stephen King was into them, and they wrote Pet Sematary because they love the book.
It's a good book.
So, yeah.
You know, he had like shelved it for 5 years because he went through a major...
Oh no, it was. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on your words, but it was. Now that I'm looking a chapter or a paragraph down, it is referenced in the book.
Well, he shelved it for like 5 years because the book, as he was writing it, gave him an intense wave of depression. And he had a really tough time actually looking at it.
Yeah, he said it was the only book that actually scared him.
But he modeled so much of the story from his own life, too, because at the time he kind of came up with the story, he was living in residence as a sort of professor and writer at this local college at a house that was remarkably similar to the one in the story. His daughter was the same age as Ellie. The locals had told him that road by their house was really dangerous because of the traffic, and that they pointed out a pet cemetery near the house, and they were like, that place is where they bury most of the pets that get caught on that road.
Yeah, except instead of the little boy getting hit by the car, it was him.
Misery, right?
What?
I don't know. But yeah, he kind of came up with the story when he was going for a walk, and I think of the stories I've read, this is the one where you can kind of see most of his life influencing it, rather than just drugs, alcohol, and weird stuff.
Right.
Which he was still pretty intense into that at the point when he wrote this. This was still that sort of write a book a day kind of like manic phase he was going through.
Man, he's really at his best when he writes about rural Maine, though. When he sort of steps out of that territory, it gets a little iffy. So most of it's still good, but it gets a little iffy.
Yeah, the best writing is always done from what you know. Judd Crandall, the wisest and simultaneously dumbest character in any kind of story.
Oh, that's a problem I actually have with both of these movies. Like, I could understand it if you're introduced to the Native American burial ground through like whispers and stuff, but to outright tell your neighbor that, hey, there's this place where you can bury stuff and it comes back to life is very irresponsible. And I feel like that was a cheap way to advance the plot. If I have any complaint about the original, and probably, I guess the book too, that's probably the only way he knew to do it.
Well,
it's that they were that obvious about getting to the place where the dead walk, or whatever they called it.
Well, this is a very distant memory, so if you can rail on me if I've got this wrong, but I think the book made it a little bit more clear that once you sort of know about this place, this dark secret, there's something about it that
pulls you to it,
makes you want to tell others about it, makes you want to share it. It's a secret you can't keep inside.
Oh, that's kind of neat. That does sound that sounds very Stephen King.
And I think that's the impression I got from the book. But again, it's been like a decade since I've fully read this thing. So I could be wrong, but that's how I interpreted it. And that's how I see it for the character Judd. He's had this traumatizing experience with this dog, which they showed in the original movie. They showed a lot more memories in the original than they did in the remake.
Yeah.
And I had actually thought they didn't do the soldier's story because it had been a while since I'd seen the original, but they did. And I was really disappointed that wasn't in the remake.
Watching that soldier's flashback again, too, I caught so much more than I probably haven't seen this movie in 20 years. But going back to it and seeing things I missed, like he's just gnawing on a little girl's leg at one point in that flashback.
Yeah, and there's
it was so much more intense than I remembered it.
And then when he's killing his father, he's screaming something about no life.
Love, dad, hate living.
Yeah, love, dad, hate living. And it's interesting. You wonder, why is it that he's not a complete psychopath with his father, but the child and the cat are? Is it because he had longer to develop, to have more complex thought?
I don't know. All that I know is that line haunted me almost as much as Never Get Out of Bed. Something about the way he was just screaming love, dad, hate living as that place just burned around them, like stuck in my brain.
It's very Frankenstein's monster, actually. It kind of reminds you of the windmill burning down, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of Frankenstein in this, and your creation is yours, but your creation hates you kind of thing.
To compare, let's start with our comparisons, because I feel like otherwise I'm going to spend the next hour and a half talking about how amazing the original is.
Yeah.
Fred Gwynne was so perfect. He was so perfect in the original. Everything he said was quotable.
I wanted to mention how quotable the original was. It's got some of the best lines, but we'll get to that too. John Lithgow is great. I love John Lithgow, but you can't have that role without a salt of the earth New England working class guy. And John Lithgow played a working class guy really well. I don't know if he had trouble with the accent, so they just didn't make him do it, or people thought that accent was dated or what it was. But I really, really missed that accent.
I've noticed a lot of films don't bother with regional American accents anymore. Most of it is Midwestern, no matter where they are.
They're less important now than they were, because I should have a terrible Western Pennsylvania accent, but I spent time working on the way I talk, so I don't have it. But I still, especially in movies that deal in like local myth and folklore and stuff like that, like I feel like you still need to use those accents
because it helps understand he's from a different world. Right,
and it shows you how ingrained these people are in that world.
This is something I did catch from the book when I was reading it today. I read through the first 4 chapters, as I said. Judd Crandall is supposed to be this father figure to Mr. Creed, and Fred Gwynne did that in a very effective way with a very limited screen time. But John Lithgow, even though he played his character well, he didn't feel like a father figure to the father character, and if I had a choice between leaving my children alone with either Fred Gwynne or John Lithgow's character, I would leave them with Fred Gwynne.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I would not trust John Lithgow in the same room with them because he seems like he has severe anger issues.
Yeah, the movie spent more time developing Lithgow and the little girl's characters and their relationship than anybody else in the movie.
And while
the new one, which I thought was a weird choice.
Yeah, and while he was a widower in both films, he was not a widower in the book. That's not really important because Stephen King wrote the original screenplay for the first film.
Wait, was his wife still alive, or he didn't have a wife?
He was a widower. In the behind-the-scenes thing he discussed it, he had mentioned he was a widower, but it's never actually mentioned, I think, directly in the film.
No, I mean in the book.
In the book, his wife is alive. She has severe arthritis, and she's never really outside with anyone, but they talk about her.
Oh, okay. Do you think that the cleaning lady in the original was sort of a
no? They don't
analog.
You don't see her.
Oh, okay. Oh, she's just not. She's just
like they refer to her from what I've read so far.
Huh.
Like they're like, oh, she's got arthritis. She's sitting up in her bedroom now. Maybe she'll serve us some tea, but she's got arthritis. So
she has arthritis.
Yes, and they always talk about her arthritis. Good woman with her arthritis.
So another big comparison I have with this and the remake is the whole soil of a man's heart is Stonia thing. That was my terrible.
It's like we're
the soil
to
in a man's heart.
Fred Gwynn's voice.
Stonia. It's mentioned so randomly in the remake. Like somebody I don't even remember who said it, but it said like once, and it's in a part that doesn't even like, I don't remember when it happened, but it makes no sense. It's never explained, and it's just said because they said it in the first one. When it's so important to this movie, like it's one of the inciting incidents to get the mom back. I think, if I remember correctly, and it's actually explained. It's the full quote. Judd has it. It's the soil of a man's heart is stonier, Lewis. A man grows what he can, and he tends it, because what you buy is what you own, and what you own always comes home to you.
Okay, yes. Like, so they use that in the original, and they re-quote it, but it's also in the epilogue in the book. Let me see what it says right here. What you buy is what you own, and sooner or later, what you own will come back to you. That's all he says.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's kind of the way they use it. It can be seen, I guess, if you want to nitpick, and it can be seen as a little sexist because they're saying that men it's harder to tend to a man's heart than it is a woman's, that kind of thing.
Well, at one point, Judd Crandall in the original film does refer to the fact that you can read a woman's mind, but you can't read a man's mind. But what's funny is in the book, in the early chapters, which I still remember because I just read them, I'm going to have to reiterate that over and over again because I don't want nerds raging out at us. Unless they email us, which would be awesome because we got an email recently about advertising. That's about it. But the father is thinking about his wife, and it's like a wife is the only person who will ever completely know read your mind. So this is interesting. So Judd's just wrong.
Well, I mean, and again, salt of the earth, working class dude, especially in the original, because he would have been like, I mean, this is the 80s, so this is like, even progressive people were still a little behind the times in progression.
And he was born in 1900.
Yeah. Was he really?
Well, yeah, in the book he was, so I'm going to assume he still was in the movie. Even though, actually, the actor Fred Gwynne was born in 1926.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe that actor wasn't, like 85 in that movie?
Well, he was supposed to, in the book, he was supposed to be like 83, but to look like a healthy 70.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll give it to you.
Because, salt of the earth and all that, as you were saying. And his wife had arthritis. I feel like I have to reiterate that again.
Oh, yeah, I've heard tell of that poor woman's arthritis. I mean, the guy who plays Lewis in the original is definitely the weakest acting-wise.
I think he did a good job as a weak man. Well, that's what he was.
I think he did too, but I think a lot of his not great acting kind of worked for him too. He definitely played the like crazy desperation a lot more subtle than a lot of actors would do it, and I think it worked really well, but I don't think he did that on purpose. You know what I mean? It's just that's the sense I got.
I think it was just a different time and a different style.
Well, if you want to put a positive spin on it.
He's cute, okay, Corey? What do you want from me?
He is a handsome fellow, but he's got some great lines in here too that are like bordering not making any sense. Like, today is Thanksgiving for cats, but only if they came back from the dead.
That would be Dale Midkiff, by the way.
Oh, okay. What else has he done?
Dale Midkiff, he usually plays a pretty douchey character. He was in Plymouth. Oh, he was in Love Potion No. 9. He played the douchey boyfriend.
Oh, Love Potion No. 9 is so good.
It is a good movie. Mostly I remember him from Love Potion No. 9. He's okay. He's an okay actor. I do think that the lead actor in the remake who plays Lewis, I think he was cast pretty well. You can at least give the movie that. Jason Clarke is a good actor.
Yeah. I like that guy.
Yeah. And he was pretty solid in the Winchester movie, even though the movie was
I didn't see the Winchester movie.
I just watched it this afternoon.
Oh, okay. And speaking of gender swapping, I'm not really a huge fan of how they did the
They switched the deaths?
Oh, no, I wasn't even there yet, but they kind of switched who believed in God and who didn't. Well, they made it more important in the remake.
Dude,
but
they
also made it
way too hard on that Zelda thing in the remake.
Yeah, especially considering the payoff was stupid. And Zelda looked bad. I mean, she didn't look fake or anything. She just wasn't like, you can't take an icon and make it subtle, which is kind of what they did. Like, it just, I feel like they were going for more disturbing than they were all out fear. Yeah, and shock. And they just failed.
And the thing is, in the original, she didn't describe her sister as torturing her or anything. Even those visions she had of her sister coming back, that was the demons tormenting her. All her sister was just sick.
Yeah.
She didn't tell her she'd be like that someday. And from what I recall in the book, I don't recall her saying anything like that. I could be wrong, but I just prefer how Zelda was done in the original. She wasn't overkill. You saw her so much in the remake that she wasn't scary by the end, you know?
No. And her death was comical at best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, she fell down a dumbwaiter, for Christ's sake.
And let's talk about extremely neglectful parents. Guys, spinal meningitis is a treatable disease. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Get checked out, everybody.
Yeah, and then they were leaving their underage daughter to look after her every day. Terrible parents.
Yeah, and then they have the stones to hate on Lewis for looking away from a kid for 2 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I can imagine it's probably because they had those traumatized memories of it, but still, maybe the father was attacking Lewis because he was really attacking himself. But
yeah, and he kind of did admit to that sort of in his half-assed apology at the airport at the end.
In the original. They didn't bother
in the
dealing
original.
with
No,
any of
they're
that
not even
remake.
there. Yeah, they just skipped all that.
And that kind of irritated me because it's, even though it's not absolutely essential in the plot, there are some things you need to keep because they make characters deeper. They make them more human.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole situation with that father-in-law made the characters more human.
Right. Yeah, you need characterization in a movie or you don't give a crap about any of your characters.
Yeah. And why did they put it on a soundstage? And why did they make it slimier? It didn't need to be.
And they also don't need to do what every movie does all the time now and add creepy kids in papier-mâché masks.
Oh my gosh, yes. Just because you're creeped out from a Halloween photo from the 1920s doesn't mean like that the whole living world is.
Yeah.
That was all they could afford, guys.
We saw those pictures on Reddit too.
Yeah. Seriously, that's what it felt like. I was like, oh, they looked at some old Halloween pictures and they thought that was creepy. Mm-hmm.
Well, they did it in an episode of, hold on, let me look it up. But they did a scene with creepy kids in papier-mâché masks and that, and it kind of worked. Castle Rock, of course. It's called Castle Rock. So yeah, in Castle Rock, they do like an episode where there are some creepy kids, like they're like a bunch of latchkey kids that have like a fake court for somebody, and they're all wearing like papier-mâché masks. But it's just so overdone at this point. We get it.
The procession was stupid. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure some people love that and they love the atmosphere it created, but for me it was just like, this is too soon and this is making it was just weird. It was out of place. It didn't belong.
Yeah, there was no need to ritualize the Pet Sematary because that's not the ritual of the movie. Right. It's not about that. Yeah, it's about what's beyond that.
This isn't about a small town where people will bury their pets and their pets are going to come back and they make a whole ritual of it. Because you know what? They're not Native Americans. They killed off all the Native Americans who used to bury people there, who stopped burying them there because the ground went sour. Also, the cat's name was Winston Churchill in full. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I did too.
Both cats were scary. They did the scary cat well in the remake.
Yeah, but the original scared me more with the glowing eyes and the like constantly looking like he was going to spring at you. Mm-hmm. I definitely think they were both good, but the original still wins for me.
Yeah, there might have been maybe a few too many flashbacks, but it was good to see some of them because it felt like Judd had more of a tie to them. Mm-hmm. Like that, the stories were deeper for him because he had personal experiences. And the Gage in the original one, let's be honest here. He was both cuter and scarier.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that Gage did his own stunts. I was going back watching his death I watched his death again this morning. He's like, no fair, no fair. He full on like trips over a ladder and smacks his head off a doorway. I couldn't tell if that was actually that poor little kid or not.
Well, they did a lot of puppetry work because in the area, especially that they were doing this, there were child labor laws that restricted children could only work up to 2 hours a day, which was why a lot of times with movies there, they would try to, if they were casting children, they would cast twins. The little girl, Ellie, was played by twins. Mm-hmm. Bo and Blaze, I believe. But this child was so perfect that they had to cast him. But yeah, that whole scene was filled with puppetry work. So I don't know if he actually hit his head. I'm sure he didn't. But they did some pretty masterful work with him. And everyone on the cast and the crew said that child was adorable and a delight to work with. Mm-hmm. And for any of the creepy stuff he actually physically did that wasn't the puppetry stuff, they just made him believe it was a game.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that. Yeah. But yeah, that kid was like, you can tell like in real life, he was just an adorable little like joy to be around.
Oh my gosh, yes. And like comparing the line, I love you, daddy. I love you, daddy. And then later on, let's play a game. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. So scary.
Yeah.
And I teared up when the baby died. And I teared up when the dad injected him and he was crying. Before he like started like making those evil faces and started saying no fair, because it was like this man was having to watch his child die all over again.
Yeah, that was pretty rough.
And the ghost in the original is spookier and funnier.
Oh, they're so much better. Pascal is so much better in the original, and I mean that's one of those characters. Like I'm totally okay with him being another race. Mm-hmm. I think that definitely doesn't matter. What I'm not okay with is taking away that sort of like sure-footed sarcasm that Pascal had, making his wounds less obvious, yet in some ways more slimy, like you said about the entire movie.
And stripping him of the humor.
Yeah. That's that confidence that Pascal had. He just took it all away. He had nothing to do, like nobody had anything to do with getting the mom back except for the kid's dream. Mm-hmm. It was like they tried to ground this movie more in the remake and it just made it not good.
But the thing is, if you want good horror, you need some levity. You need something that draws you back a little so you can be even more scared in the next scene, I think. Yeah.
Oh, I agree. It's a balance, and it's a hard balance to get that this movie didn't even try to achieve.
Yeah, I'm not going to say all the Pascal scenes were perfect, because some of them really weren't, but the way they changed the character and removed some of his importance, like, what was the point of him tormenting a 2-year-old in the remake? Because it's not like that 2-year-old could tell them anything.
Yeah. It was just him being a dick.
Yeah, and that poor Gage, oh my gosh, he went through so much. So much in the remake.
Well, I mean, maybe we should play the trailer now. Oh, I don't even want to watch this again.
I didn't even realize I had so many strong opinions about this.
Oh, I did, because Angie got a mouthful for like an hour after we watched the movie.
Poor Angie. I'm so tired of hair scares. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember my birthday party. Church was out on the road.
I do understand why they changed it to the little girl, though, and I'll go into that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear why. I didn't notice they gave that away. I'm glad I only watched this trailer like once, because they totally telegraphed it with girl.
Oh, no, I immediately knew they'd give it away, and it pissed me off.
Not that it wasn't completely obvious.
What's going on?
There's a place Rach brings things back. Hug your daughter.
Are you happy, Mommy?
I should never have shown you that place.
But you did.
It's like those children are also good.
If you cheat death, there's a price to be paid.
I needed more time with
I
her.
guess they are, because she's an ass, too.
Sometimes dead is better. If you've done something, Lewis, it's not too late to undo it.
Okay, so that whole trailer was jump scares. And that whole movie was jump scares. Mm-hmm. But okay, my explanation for why they changed it from Gage dying to Ellie dying. Spoilers, guys. Gage, he was a full-on little demon in the original, right? Like, he knew what he was. There were no questions about it. But changing it to someone who was a little older and was capable of understanding life a little bit more, she could have a conversation with her father about death. She was able to guilt him a little bit more, to dig more deeply into his psyche, which was why they didn't have him just immediately take a nap while his daughter was coming back and then his wife died, you know?
Yeah. Okay, see, I like that in theory, but in the original, the daughter discussing the nature of death and all that stuff and being afraid of it
happened before.
It happened before, because that's how kids are. Mm-hmm. And now you've got this undead kid who's already experienced this crap. What does it matter anymore? You're just an evil little monster kid now. Shut up and murder stuff. Mm-hmm. Gage was so much more effective, except they did do that thing that annoys me where, like, when a kid dies, all that they do is show a shoe.
Yeah, I was watching that this afternoon. I was like, yeah, Corey's going to say something about that.
Yeah, I hate the shoe trope. Ugh.
I'd rather see the shoe than the baby.
No, I'd rather see the baby.
Well, that's because you have problems.
I'm a psychopath. On the subject of naps, I also hated the fact that he drugged Judd in the remake. Like another reason this whole Judd thing works so well in the original is because it's his fault and he knows it. Yeah. Like, from the time he buries his dog up there to now, like, everything that Judd did was a mistake, a good-natured mistake, but a mistake nonetheless. So you're taking even more characterization away from Judd by having to drug him instead of Judd just falling asleep. Yeah, drinking too many beers on his porch.
In the original, you feel more of a relationship between Lewis and Judd. Yeah. In the remake, you feel like he's only drinking with Judd because he has to and there's no one else around.
And I think some of that comes down to the actor, whereas I don't hate him. I think he's a decent actor. He doesn't look likable. He doesn't look like somebody you'd want to like. He looked like somebody that would yell at you for taking his seat in the bar.
Yeah, but it's John Lithgow. If they didn't give him the beard, he would look like someone you'd want to talk to.
No, I'm talking about Lewis, not Judd.
Oh, yeah. No, that dude looks totally standoffish.
Yeah. Like, he's definitely the male version of Karen that wants to speak to the manager.
He was still an excellent actor. He, like, in comparison to the original, he was a really good actor.
Oh, yeah, he definitely was. I have no complaints about the way everybody acted in this movie. I just think they were given crap to work with.
And again, too much Zelda. Too much Zelda.
Yeah, too much Zelda and too much heavy-handed. Well, I mean, Zelda was pretty heavy-handed in the original. There just wasn't as much as her. Not enough trucks, and then when we do get to the titular truck scene and the whole switch happens where it's the girl, spoilers, and not Gage, we don't need... Like, there's no reason to have the truck almost hit Gage and then jackknife and have the tanker hit the girl. That's not how trucks work. Drivers are trained for that. You know what I mean? Like, on a straightaway, if you hit something, you're lucky if a truck even notices it hit something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I get he'd try to stop, but it's not, I don't think it's going to be a jackknife situation. I mean, this doesn't matter. The fact is, I don't think they needed a big budget Hollywood truck crash when they could just ram the stupid cab into the kid.
And from experience, I've actually firsthand seen an 18-wheeler hit a guy's truck right in front of us.
Jesus.
Because the guy pulled out too soon. And the truck smashed his truck. The 18-wheeler smashed this guy's truck, and the wheel of the truck went flying in one way while the guy bounced around in his cabin like a rag doll. But the 18-wheeler was able to pull to a stop only like maybe 20 feet afterwards. Nobody was dead, by the way. The guy the guy in the truck was shaken up, but he looked like he was okay. He might have had a concussion, but
wow.
I mean, he didn't jackknife.
Yeah. Like it from my understanding, a trained driver, it takes some work to jackknife a truck.
Mm-hmm. And also,
not saying it's not possible in that situation. Stupid. Oh God, yeah. I didn't already say this. I said it off recording before, but you take a scene where this dude is so into one of the greatest rock and roll bands in the history of rock and roll, the Ramones, that he's not paying attention to what's going on. You turn that into texting. That is some sort of rock and roll sin to me. Like, Joey Ramone rolled over in his grave on that one.
They just had to give us some sort of social message there.
Yeah. You know what? While we're on the subject of the Ramones, I would like to touch on the cover of the Ramones song at the end of the movie. Why do that? I get it. It's a remake. You're remaking the song. But why would you take something so perfect as the Ramones tribute to Pet Sematary and make some half-assed... I gotta look up what band
Hold
cover.
on. If you want to talk about cordial sins of cover remakes for remake movies, let's talk about Lost Boys. My God, the way they covered all of that music was terrible.
Wait, in the original Lost Boys?
Well, in the remake of the Lost Boys, they took the sort of the sex scene song, and the cover was unbelievably just terrible.
I can't remember where you're talking about.
Cry Little Sister. There's a cover in Lost Boys.
Oh, yeah, that's awful.
So
I'm so sorry.
I think that's even cardinally worse than the cover in this Pet Sematary remake. Because at least they maintained the same tune and vibe, even though it's not as good as the Ramones.
See, I disagree. I don't think they kept the same vibe. I think they kept the same tune, but I think it was just, it just felt like it was a very hollow cover to me. The Ramones were not a technical band. The Ramones pioneered the whole 3-chord aggressive punk rock and roll style.
90% of their music is really, really like low quality recordings. Let's get right down to it. And that adds to the charm.
They played fast and they played loud and they played 3 chords. That was what the Ramones did. But they did all this with this patented attitude that is very hard to fake.
And glorious hair.
Glorious hair, yeah. I love everything about the Ramones is phenomenal, but this is what makes them so hard to cover. Like, you can get the tones on the guitars fairly easily. Mm-hmm. You can learn that. Look, I can barely play guitar, and I could probably pick one up and play a Ramones song in 15 minutes. you can sing along to, you can memorize the lyrics because they're so catchy, but what you can't capture is, for lack of a better term, you can't capture the Ramones' balls in their music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this band Starcrawler. It's a band called Starcrawler.
Starcrawler?
Ladies and gentlemen, there's no need to ever listen to a band called Starcrawler. That being said, I'm going to check out the rest of their
There's no reason to ever listen to them. That being said, I'm going to buy all of their albums.
No, I don't want to judge somebody because of one song, so I'm gonna... I'll check them out on Spotify on my way to work tomorrow and get back to you on how I feel about them.
Now,
but I have a feeling it'll be good. I feel like I need to at least give them a chance before I am too crappy.
Now, this is a gripe my mom had pointed out, but it's very obvious that the cemetery in the remake is filmed on a soundstage. It's very fake looking. The pile of brush, the barrier, the gateway, whatever. There's no reason for it to be, for that to be creepier than the cemetery itself. There's no reason for the setting to be creepy. It should look real. That's what makes it more powerful.
Oh, I'm sorry. Real quick, I must like this band actually because I was already following them on Spotify. I'm gonna have to figure out why. Yeah, I didn't have much of a problem with the cemetery itself. It did look very soundstagey. I thought it was okay. I didn't. It's not the worst sin the remake engaged in. You know what I mean? I think the problem I have with the Pet Sematary is actually a problem I have with both Pet Semataries. All right, so you've got this giant wall of brush and trees. I think they called it tree fall in the remake. Does it go the entire way around the forest? Why do you have to climb over the tree fall to get to the Native American burial ground? I feel like you can go around. I feel like it's just a shortcut to go over. You know what I mean? Like, that's always bugged me.
That makes
Why
me
can't they just walk around?
That makes me think of young Frankenstein. Walk this way. Okay. He gives him the cane.
But no, really, like, throw your dead wife in a wheelbarrow and take her around the back to the old Native American burial ground. There's no need to, like, drag her corpse up over the big tree pile.
I just picture you waiting for an awkward moment, looking up as he's climbing and going, and just, like, slowly edging towards the side of the breath.
Oh, dude, if I was Judd, that's totally what I would do. I'd be like, you just go head up there. Just head up there. Just kidding, Lewis. I'm going to go around.
That's a horrible Judd impression.
Yeah, I know. Oh, what other problems? I feel like there were more. Everything the original did. And I get this. I get this. You don't want to make a remake that is exactly like the source material, because then you get Psycho with, what's his name? Vince Vaughn.
Which was an interesting experiment in shot-for-shot remakes. Let me just say, It was an interesting experiment.
Yeah, but it's unnecessary when you already have the original.
But now you know shot-for-shot remakes are stupid thanks to the experimentation of Psycho and The Omen.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The Omen TV series was great, though.
Yeah, but the remake of the film was shot-for-shot, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't shot-for-shot, but it definitely stuck closer. Anyway, so the remake wanted to set itself apart from the original, and I get that, and I don't fault it for that.
I can appreciate that they tried.
I do, but they took every single thing that made the original work and either changed it or just straight up took it away, which is, how does that get through a legion of directors, producers, editors? Like, how is nobody involved in this a big enough fan to be like, hey guys, actually, this isn't working? You know,
at the end of the day, comparing them though, they both just feel like products of their time, and I think they were trying to make it for this generation and this time and put it into the cookie cutter box that's required of horror films right now. There's the jump scares, there's the unnecessarily heavy bass in the background that shakes the theater around you. I mean, it felt like a movie that was made in 2019. That's it.
Yeah, but that's the thing that bothers me about this is that's like, again, mentioning Get Out, Us, even some of the movies like House of the Devil, Happy Death Day. Yeah, there are movies that are doing amazing stuff. In fact, I might watch Happy Death Day 2 tonight. There are movies that are doing some amazing original stuff now, and it's working really well, and they're making money. But there's still this group of like ancient, I don't know if this is Hollywood Illuminati doing its thing, but like there's definitely this group of like ancient producers that are holding film back in a really mind-blowing way. Like, I don't understand it. Like, it's obviously not working. Stop doing it. They fought to make Deadpool for years. They made it, and that movie printed money. And granted, I'm straying from horror. But the point is, like, the whole reason film exists is because people sat down and experimented with. I mean, it's a reason we've got a bunch of bad movies, but it's also the reason we've got so many cool techniques and things and makeup effects and all this amazing crap, because people are allowed to experiment within their art medium.
I think every decade and a half, we find ourselves in a weird period of flux with both politics, film, pretty much everything in the world. Right now, we're in an odd period of flux where the older generation of film producers are struggling to pass that torch down, while the newer generation are making incredibly interesting stuff opposite them. And the frustrating thing is that they can't work together. That's
well put.
To.
No, that is a very good way to boil down my monologue into a bite-sized point. Yeah. Well said. I get a little fired up about that.
Yeah. And on a side note, this one just didn't feel like a Stephen King story. The original one did. And that might be because Stephen King wrote the screenplay of the original one, but also it's like hardly any psychic children in this. You didn't fit.
Yeah, I mean, Gage just has that one dream. It's not.
Yeah, and all he's doing is pointing and crying. What's that going to do for you?
Yeah. And that's another reason why you can't like the in the original, the look on the mom's face when she realizes her daughter was saying Pascal is perfect and terrifying, and like, you know what's coming, and she knows that she has to go back right. It's so well done. Yeah. And it just killed it because they used somewhere between 2 and 7-year-old. I don't know how old children are.
Yeah, probably like 3
I don't know.
3.5, an underdeveloped 3.5 because his speech was really behind. But my last criticism of this, which is funny because I don't actually hate this movie. My last criticism is that the original film followed the concept of the monkey's paw. 3 wishes, all corrupted terribly. He brings the cat back, it goes wrong. He brings his son back, it goes wrong. And then he brings his wife back, and it goes terribly wrong. But in the remake, they tossed that out the window with the ending.
Yeah, what's up with that? How does this family's future look now? Are they just a dead family that live in this house? Does Lewis go back to being a dead guy doctor? Or do they start burying the rest of the town up there? Like, do they become undead? Like, where does the movie go from here that isn't stupid? What does Pet Sematary 2 look like in this world?
Maybe this isn't a remake of Pet Sematary, but a prequel to the remake of Dead and Buried. And it was unnecessary to bring the Wendigo into this. Plus, they did the mythology really poorly.
I forgot about. I had completely erased that. And again, that's another thing they just took from Reddit.
Yeah, if you want to watch a good movie with Wendigo that's closer to the mythology, watch Ravenous, please.
Oh, God, yes. Don't watch the movie Wendigo. It's awful.
Yeah, watch Ravenous.
Yeah.
And also read some of that fan fiction.
Yeah, read a creepypasta.
Well, it's more of a romantic fan fiction, but...
Oh, God.
Those were our feelings about Pet Sematary and Pet Sematary.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my last 10 minutes of aggressive shouting was my closing remarks, so I'm good.
I'm sure we should probably talk about Pet Sematary too, but we just didn't have time to get to it. In the future, we will. It had the same director, so.
Yeah, I think we throw that into a sequel episode, like... Yeah. We could, what we could do, since they announced a remake of Salem's Lot.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We could do, yes, exactly. We could do a Stephen King, sequel episode.
Oh, that would be fun.
I'd have to watch both again. I'd have to watch Salem's Lot.
Oh my gosh, there's a Carrie too.
Oh God, there is. I feel like you'd rather do Salem's Lot. I'd rather hear you talk about Salem's Lot than Carrie too.
Anyway, if you want to check out our blog, you can find us at hallow-holic.blogspot.com or hallow-holic.wordpress.com.
You can find us on the Twitters at Nowhere23 or search for Hallow-Holics. Please tweet at us.
You can also email us at Hallow-Holics@outlook.com.
There's a man behind me today with a bucket of bees.
What? Bees?
He's going to open this bucket of bees if I don't tell you.
Oh, God.
To search for our portal, HHA, on podpedia.org. All right, he's gone. Now we're good.
Oh, my God. Hey, what's that moving in the ground? Corey, your fish.
Do you have a glass of water? Wait, is it still swimming if it's through the air?
That's a good question.
Goldie, no!